So I'd like to start with some meditation and settle in to whatever posture you're using. So for those of you who are online, we just got a message from Keith, if you want to check in on that. Um, so settling in and checking in with the body, making it as comfortable as you can, helping the body relax. Take a few slow, long breaths. One perception might be that you bring in the air and you fill your whole body with breath energy. It's really the energy of life. And relaxing a bit more with each exhalation. Bring the intention for your practice to be of benefit to anyone you'd like to share merit with, or to everyone, all beings, because it's bigger than we are. And we don't practice only for ourselves. We also practice for the benefit of others. Knowing that our practice brings more peace, more kindness into the world. So we establish mindfulness and clear comprehension. So we have mindfulness and wisdom along with this calming serenity of the heart, tranquility of the body, and tranquility of the mind. The more we relax into the meditation, the more likely these feelings of happiness and joy arise. With mindfulness itself, there is this feeling of pleasantness. And this pleasant feeling, happy feeling, joyful feeling, these kinds of feelings bring more and more peace to the mind. And I'd like you to bring to mind a place that you find inspiring. It could be some place you've visited in the past, maybe a holy site, some kind, or a place in nature, or maybe it's your own shrine in your own home, some place where you feel that resonance with what's wholesome, with what's good, with what's uplifting. Or maybe even it's a place in your imagination. And we recall and tune into that feeling of inspiration. And we can reflect on, why do we find this inspiring? And see what really lies at the basis of that inspiration. Maybe it's the power of many people coming together in a place for spiritual practice. Maybe it's the sense that many spiritual beings, seen and unseen, are present in a natural setting. Maybe it's the sense that there have been the challenges and struggles overcome by an individual or by many individuals, bringing to light the goodness, the virtue, the heart, inclining towards what's wholesome, acting upon what's wholesome, what's loving, what's truly uplifting. And if there is that sense of happiness, joy, inspiration, then we can take nourishment from that. We can rest in it. Really appreciating that this does not come from the self or from other, but from the wholeness of the Dhamma, regardless of what name we give it. What's truly beautiful in the lives of all living beings. So I want to talk a little bit today about inspiration. And I want to share a sutta with you, a very short one. The sutta comes from the Itiwutaka. And if you'll remember, this is a volume of teachings that were preserved from the words of the Buddha that were memorized by the servant girl Kujutra and brought back to the palace that the queen she served, lived in with many other women. So 500, which means a lot. A big harem, I guess, or um, women living in the palace as prisoners, really, it sounds like, not leaving ever, but Kujutaro would get sent out to buy flowers, and then she heard the Buddha, and she would bring back the teachings of the Buddha for all of them. And so this is one of those. And it's called Happiness. It's very short. All of the suttas in this collection start with, "This was said by the Buddha, the perfected one. That is what I heard." So this is Kujutara passing on the teachings of the Buddha. Mendicants. When a mendicant has two qualities, they're full of joy and happiness in the present life, and they've laid the groundwork for the ending of defilements. Does this sound familiar to any of you? It might, because a couple of weeks ago we looked at a sutta that started out, at least the part of where the Buddha is teaching, started out in exactly the same way, except that it was 6 qualities. That sutta is called the Sukha Somanasana Sutta, the Joy and Happiness Sutta. This one is called the Somanasa Sutta. It's just the happiness part. But it starts out in the same way with these same, here are the qualities that bring you joy and happiness. If you have these qualities, you're full of joy and happiness in the present life. And you've laid the groundwork for ending the defilements. And in the case 2 weeks ago, it was 6 things that the Buddha said, if you delight in these 6 things, then this is what you're doing, what's happening. And here it's 2, and these 2 are being inspired at inspiring places. That's the first one. And making a suitable effort when inspired. That's the second one. So these 2 qualities help us to be filled with joy and happiness in the present life and lay the groundwork for the ending of the defilements. And then I really like this little verse here. The Buddha spoke this matter. On this it is said, at inspiring places, an astute person should be inspired. A keen and alert mendicant should examine with wisdom. A mendicant living like this, with keen energy, peaceful, not restless, devoted to serenity of heart, attains the ending of suffering. This too is a matter that was spoken by the Blessed One. That is what I heard. So I'm curious about places that you find inspiring. I mean, the Buddha talked about inspiring places. He said that When he was dying, he said there are 4 places that are good to go, inspiring places: where the Buddha was born, which is Lumbini, which is in present day Nepal. And the place where the Buddha gave his first sermon, Bodh Gaya. Oh, I mean, where he got enlightened, of course, Bodh Gaya. And the place where he gave his first sermon, Sarnath. And the place where he passed away, Kusinara, or present day Kushinagar. So those are inspiring places. I don't know if you've been to any of those. I was at Bodh Gaya once, and I also found the nearby Vulture's Peak, which we read a lot about in the suttas, inspiring. And the cave where they say that the Buddha practiced austerities, the Mahakala cave, I found that very inspiring. And I'm curious if there are other places that you find inspiring. Um, and of course, it can be anywhere, right? A cathedral, a church, um, a natural setting. It feels very inspiring here in the forest. I don't know how I didn't know this before, but I just recently learned that these coastal redwoods are the tallest trees in the world. The trees that we're surrounded by here at the Vihara. And there's something very inspiring about that to me. They can live to be, I think, 2,000 years old. Yes, Linda. Oh, you're still muted.
Okay, I'll start over. So when you brought up that during meditation, what came to my mind was Camp Samish, and most
Mm.
probably don't know what I'm referring to, but when Bellingham Insight hosts retreats, we use this um, facility of the Community Christ Church, which is really during the summer a summer camp for children. But they welcome groups like ourselves, and we set up an altar in their what I think is really like a gym. And I've gone to more than a dozen retreats there, and it's a beautiful setting. And there's a little lake you can walk around, and trees and nature. And what I discovered after 4 or 5 retreats was just getting there. I just noticed a settling in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what came to my mind. And the sutta is perfect because you know where else would it be? I mean, a better place to put in effort than in a place like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Linda. Cynthia?
So this is a question actually, and I mean something I've been thinking about, reflecting on a lot, which is that, when you invited us to think of things that places we find inspiring, and for me it's like Point Reyes and the the redwoods, the massive redwoods, and there's joy that comes up thinking of those places, and then there's a lot of sorrow because I can't go there anymore. I will never be able to be in those places again. And it doesn't, and it's like I try to find inspiring places in Portland, but it's not something you can just fabricate exactly, so it's like what to do with that, um, how to find inspiration. Yeah, it's like you can't create that, I don't think. So I struggle with that.
So this is an important consideration as we think about inspiration, because it doesn't last. And there's the other side of it. Because even living the holy life, you go through periods where you're inspired and you go through periods where you're not. And there's all these ups and downs to life. So when I was thinking about inspiration, I thought I'd kind of check to see what the other monastic teachers are saying. And Ajahn Sumedho has this talk online called Inspiration and Desperation. And it's like that, right? So it's like there's this, when the Buddha says put in effort, and you're looking at this with wisdom, and you're devoted to the serenity of the heart. And so it's like maintaining the serenity of the heart, regardless of whether it's inspiration or desperation. I mean, if you have the serenity of the heart, it probably doesn't go really to desperation, but it has that side of what is when we're not inspired. We're not going to be inspired all the time. And what is it like is said, like Cynthia says, when you had a place of inspiration that you loved going to, but you can't go there anymore. That's going to happen with everyone, no matter what. So how do we carry that in the heart? How do we bring that about in our own space? Maybe the memories of what's inspiring, or recognizing what's inspiring that's coming through other means than location, like inspiring stories, when people really, when any of us goes above and beyond the norm to be kind, to be helpful, to care for people. And there's more we can say about this, but I want to hear it right now. James Bucky first.
So for inspiring places, obviously fortunate I can visit Amravati, and I'm sure you remember the temple there is a very nice place to be. It's extremely quiet, has that quality of peacefulness, and you're sat in front of that big gold Buddha. So that's always a good place to go. But you said about cathedrals. I mean, obviously, being in England, we're very much spoiled for cathedrals. And just 40 minutes drive away, I've got one that's Peterborough Cathedral. It's almost 1,000 years old, and did a rooftop tour of it a while ago. But I'm always struck by the sort of spiritual presence. I'm not Christian, never have been, but nevertheless, you walk into a place like that and you get a sense of the many people who walk through those doors. Perhaps some are more genuinely devout than others, and but nevertheless, it's an awesome space to be in. And I kind of think if I lived in Peterborough, I'd probably hang out in the church quite a bit, just sit on the back row and meditate a bit. Perhaps I think it'd be a good space for it. But I think for me, the inspiring space is more in my own imagination. I do use my imagination quite a bit in little scenarios. I think I was just thinking that I remember early in my practice, Ajahn Brahmali did this guided meditation in which we were to imagine that we were the Buddha at the point of enlightenment. And I have to say, for me, that felt kind of like almost a bit too much, like almost like it's too much to imagine yourself being the Buddha. But so I imagine myself instead being with the Buddha, you know, maybe not the point of enlightenment or just, you know, just being there. And I think that stuck with me. And sometimes I've found like these imaginary scenarios just pop up into my head, sort of pre-created sometimes, just you know, sitting in the presence of the Blessed One. It's can be very moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yes, yes. So we can create this. This is what's so amazing about the human mind. You know, a group of people can get together and practice and can feel that field of energy. You practice over and over again. Like you said, it doesn't matter what the religion is. If there's that devotion there, if there's that real virtue and commitment, and you know, it you can feel that sense. I've also had that in cathedrals, and I really found the temple at Amaravati and also at Chithurst very uplifting. You can just you walk through the door and you can feel the energy. It's beautiful. And that peacefulness, that directing our mind towards what really is Dhamma, no matter what you call it. Um, and and that shared experience, that shared spiritual experience is very uplifting. James Peck.
Well, much as you were just saying, you know, well, as a prelude, you know, Cloud Mountain would immediately come to mind because I spent so much time there over the years. But my question I asked myself, well, why, you know, what makes it special? And it's just that, you know, not only have a long history of uh, blissful or illuminating experiences there, but it's the people that I practice with there, and it's the people that have been there over the years. And you know, when we were in Thailand, you know, the devotion, you know, that the environment's like saturated with Buddha Dharma devotion, and you know, so that's what really makes the place. Um, and yeah, I think thinking of it as a place is a bit of a, for me, would be a misplacement of the where the value of it is placed. You know, because it's if I were, you know, at the mall with, you know, you and Chitananda and the rest of the sangha, I would be pretty inspired. So, uh, so I really appreciate sangha um, and the sangha of the ages, you know, that have really invested their spiritual devotion in these, you know, these places that I've had the honor to be in. Thank you, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, James. You know, I find it interesting in the suttas, if you I've never really paid close attention to it before, kind of exploring this idea of inspiration and how it comes. But the Buddha would go to these shrines that existed at that time. And obviously they're not Buddhist shrines, they're Brahminical shrines, or the way he described them, or the way they're described is these are shrines of the woodlands, tree shrines. So when the Buddha was in the Maha Parinibbana Sutta, the Buddha talks about these lovely shrines in the Vaishali area, the Udina shrine, the Gotamaka shrine, the seven, well, it's translated as seven maidens or seven mangoes, depending on the translation you look at. shrine. The Many Suns shrine is apparently an ancient banyan tree that people would pray for sons to be born. The Sarananda shrine, the Kapala tree shrine. And then you notice that the Buddha would stay at these places. So obviously what's happening at a shrine? People are coming with their wishes, they're coming with their praise, with their devotion, they're making offerings at the shrine. And then the Buddha is there giving teachings. And there's this teaching the Buddha gave. Let me see if I think I lost it when we lost our see if I can find it. It's going to take me a minute, I think. Sorry. I had it up a little while ago, but it was lost when I had to restart the computer. Can you all still hear me okay? I actually we lost our internet and it switched over to our satellite version, so there might be a little delay. Oh dear. Well, I'm glad you can still hear all right. Just a second. I think this is it. So the Buddha is at this shrine. It's a tree shrine called the Gautama shrine. And this is Anguttara Nikaya 3, number 125. And, you can just kind of imagine the Buddha sitting there with some of the monastics and people around doing their offerings and such. And the Buddha says, mendicants, I teach based on direct knowledge, not without direct knowledge. I teach with reasons, not without them. I teach with a demonstrable basis, not without it. Since this is so, you should follow my advice and instruction. This is enough for you to feel joyful, delighted, and happy. The Blessed One is a fully awakened Buddha. The teaching is well explained. The Sangha is practicing well. That is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, the mendicants approved of what the Buddha said. And while this discourse was being spoken, the thousandfold galaxy shook. And so it's like, what part of all of this is kind of mysterious and otherworldly? And then to come back to that solidity that the Buddha, it's not about mythology, it's not about imagination, it's about direct experience, reasoning, really presenting what is actually true and verifiable by our own direct experience. And so, it's just kind of intriguing, that the Buddha encourages people at that time, and I'm sure all of us still, like talks about the benefit of visiting such places, the shrines, and continuing to provide support to them. And yet, we'd be really not, and yet, in addition, grounding what we know about reality in the basis of experience with our confidence in the Buddha and his experience. So what do we do with practice, maintaining that serenity of heart, that, keen and alert, examining with wisdom. When we examine our inspiration with wisdom, we know it's impermanent. We know it's not, it's, if we cling to it, if we long for it, there's suffering. We know that it's not self. One of the things I find really inspiring is when human beings are focused on helping each other, being kind, being loving, compassionate, virtuous. This, when we investigate inspiration, then we want to look at how much of this is around the sense of self and how much of it do we let go beyond the sense of self. When we're focused on ourselves, that's when we're more likely to tend toward the desperation side. When we're focused on not self, when it's not self, when we're focused on kindness and compassion, the benefit of the many, doing what's good for ourselves and others, then that's the inspirational side. So with our energy keen, peaceful, not restless, devoted to serenity of the heart, then we go beyond suffering. So I think that's basically what I was hoping to share with you today. And I'd like to hear more from you. Questions, comments. Yes, James.
When you were talking earlier, I was thinking about how obviously the degree to which we're inspired by things will probably be aided or constricted by the degree to which the hindrances are present in the mind. That if we have less greed, less hatred, that we have more metta, that we're more likely to be, we're more open to be inspired by things. So with the mindset, you can probably find things to be inspired by in every high street and every house, and you perhaps don't necessarily need sort of special places or things. And I think I always come back to how it's in, you're thinking of enlightenment, you're thinking of doing great, generous deeds. But day to day, it's probably more useful to focus on the little things, just the little ways in which people are good to each other and things are good, and turning away from focusing on the things that are bad or wrong or troubling. But yeah, a mind that is unhindered is more likely to be inspired, is just my thought.
Yeah, I agree. Beautiful. Thank you, James. Yes, Linda.
Um, on on another topic, um, I've, in the past week, I've had two references to what is meditation, and in both cases, it was um, trying to uh, communicating that to be careful with having too narrow a view of what meditation is. And I know that's tripped me up a number of times. One was a koan that I heard, and it was, what is meditation? And then the master says, it is not meditation, it is alive.
Oh.
And then the other one was the talk that you suggested, by Ajahn Pasano, and just reminding us that it's not about gaining or achieving. So I've been thinking about that a lot, because I know that in my own practice over the years, that's been a stumbling point for me, is that I get discouraged if I'm not getting where I need to, or I think I should be more settled than I am, rather than just being with whatever is there at the moment. So that's one of the things that I've been playing with, working with this last week. And anything you have to add to that, I'd be interested.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. I think it's a really important reflection, and I think it is. I know for myself too, I can get stuck for a little while there, sometimes trying to do something, trying to get something, trying to make something happen. And of course, it doesn't work because it has that orientation from the self. Whereas then, if we step back and we recognize, oh, I'm putting this pressure on, because it feels like sometimes we don't notice, we go from, no, making effort we think is the right effort, and then you start to feel stuck, there's a grind or there's some kind of dukkha, and you realize, oh, I'm pushing too hard, I'm wanting to have something happen that's not happening, I'm not content and satisfied and observing what's there, I'm not taking that very important step of being present with what's there before I nudge it in the right direction. And then, or incline in the right direction. And it's something we learn, right? Learn over through experience. And suffering is the key. That's the flag that we have to see. Okay, there's dukkha in this efforting. How do I bring it back to serenity? It's really about kindness, dispassion, not passion. that it's about being present with and letting wisdom solve the question of what do I do? What do I do now? Yeah, so it's very, very central to our practice. And when we see it, it's like instead of more selfing and why do I fall into this again? Those kinds of questions. Just being glad that, oh, I see it. I can take a big sigh of relief, be present with things as they are. That quality of mindfulness, that kindness, that way of describing right intention, of kindness, gentleness, and letting go, bringing that in. Then there's like, it's like somebody opened the window and the fresh air is coming in again. So I think this is an ongoing learning experience for us as we practice. Thank you, Linda. Ling?
So, Aya, when you just speaking about effort and linked to the sutta you were talking about, I've been wondering the second part, the quality Buddha said, making a suitable effort when inspired. So there was a suitable effort. I was wondering, like, are there any unsuitable effort? Like, I've never thought about going to be making effort. I mean, you are inspired, like James said, in the daily things. You saw somebody get up early, make a tea, boil water for you. You are inspired. You say, oh, maybe I want to do that. I wonder if there any unsuitable effort or overdue. Can you say something about it?
Yeah, I think it is we know it's unsuitable if there's this this kind of stuck feeling, this dukkha in it. Then, when we push too hard, when we want to get something out of it, when we're focused on these kinds of results, or there's this self-blame or blame of others or blame of the conditions, there's a unsuitable effort there. And we can tell because of the way it feels. And we start this whole process of practice, it's really about learning about our own minds. It's really about learning what is a suitable effort. What is it that helps the mind develop? What is it that causes us to get stuck? And a lot of it is our conditioned behavior kicking in and not seeing that right away. And it's okay, when we do see it, then right, that conditioning either to be lazy or to be overly trying too hard to make something happen. And then so the suitable effort is, instead of feeling all inspired and kind of giddy with it, like just enjoying the inspiration and not paying attention to the wisdom side. So the Buddha's like, you make suitable effort at that time to use the energy from that wisdom, from that inspiration, to develop wisdom. And then, it's with the suitable effort that we can both have that uplift of the heart and also the openness of the heart to the reality that this doesn't last, that there is the need to see things as they actually are. And so it's really quite the learning experience. And when we get to know ourselves, the more we get to know ourselves, and the more we see, oh, I can be meditating and observing my mind run all over the place. And as long as there's that aspect where I'm calmly viewing, I'm seeing with some equanimity, with that kindness, gentleness, and I'm able to let go of what I think I should be. I'm able to let go of whatever it is I want other people to think I am. If I can let go of those things, then I can really be present. If I can let go of those ideas and ideals that I've cultivated and developed throughout my life, if I'm willing to let them go in service of seeing the way things actually are, that's how we make progress. And that's how we come to awaken.